Hello. I think that's my cue to start. Hello and welcome to BT Sports Presents How to Win on Digital with Rio Ferdinand. Thank you very much for being here. Of course, the way we are all consuming content is changing, with broadcasters needing to evolve to engage with their audiences. I'm Sonali Shah and I will be your host for the next hour. During that time, we will be discussing what content providers are doing to keep up, basically, and where the industry might be heading. I'll be asking all of you. And if you have any questions about how to remain relevant, you honestly are in the right place this afternoon. Let me introduce you to my highly esteemed and extremely good-looking panel this afternoon. Rio Ferdinand. He has... Was that a groan?
He's too beautiful.
You have a heckler. We have a heckler. Oh, gosh. We have a heckler already. He has about 20 million followers on social media and is now, of course, part of the team at BT Sport. Their head of digital is Mike Norris over here. And here is a little taste of what they get up to.
BT Sport is at the heart of sport, and social media is at the heart of everything we do. Our tweets and posts are shared by millions of sports fans every week. Goals, knockouts, tries and crashes are tweeted in real time to promote our shows and amplify our expert insight. Fan engagement is driven through social media, with our pundits and presenters joining the sports conversation around the clock. We top the trending tables with our social sport campaigns, like Goals Recreated and Champions Draw. From MotoGP to the UFC, from the Champions League to the National League, our social coverage delivers unmissable moments into your newsfeed. And our No Filter series takes fans behind the scenes, right to the heart of the sports we love. With BT Sports Social, sport is always at your fingertips. BT Sports Social, the heart of sport.
Next to Mike is Alexandra Willis, who for the last 7 years has been Wimbledon's multi-award-winning, recently, digital chief. Here is some of her work. We are completed this afternoon by David Vujanic, or most of us know you as Vuj. He's one of the faces of Copenhagen. If you've been living under a rock for the past 5 years, this is what they do.
No matter what color you are, no matter what language you speak, you're here for one thing, and that is football.
Turn your wounds into wisdom. Tell me of your pain. I promise to listen. And when you...
It's not always about the game, it's about passion, it's about having a good time. Football can be so much more than just 90 minutes.
All 7 of these kids don't speak a word of English. Because of this game, football, we're all talking.
Hey! Watch out for those kids! They'll tear you apart!
Well, I do hope those films have set you up. That is how our panel of online game changers pay their mortgages. If any of you would like some help paying... You haven't got one?
No, renting
You'll get
London.
One, right?
It's difficult.
The housing crisis, ladies and gentlemen.
Box room. I can touch everything.
Pay your rent.
Well,
pay your rent. If you have any questions for any of them, please do use the EdFest TV app. It's brilliant, actually, and it's the easiest way to get to us, and it also means we can monitor what you want to ask. In the meantime, if you don't mind, I will kick off with Rio. Rio, you are very much part of this evolution that traditional television broadcasters are having to really go through as viewing habits change. At what point did you yourself realise that you need to up your social media game or basically stay at home?
It was when I was playing, to be honest. It was when I was at Manchester United, and I can't even remember exact long ago how I found out about Twitter and social media, really. And I just thought straight away it grabbed me as a place where I could voice my opinion, set things straight. There were people behind desks writing a lot of things about me, shaping how I'd be perceived in the media, and I didn't like that. And I thought, that person doesn't know me, and people would judge me based on that. So I thought this is a great platform for us as sportsmen, as people, to actually really showcase who you are properly. And with that, I thought beyond that, as to when I finish football, when I'm not playing anymore, if I didn't get involved, who do I have to speak to? Who can I take along the next journey in my life, as well as being a commercial proposition as well. So I thought about that and thought, well, I want to take a suitcase of people with me once I've finished onto the next journey, and be able to speak to them. And when you look at like marketing companies, brands nowadays, it's not how good a football you are a lot of the time, it's how many social media followers do you have. And I thought about that quite early, and a lot of my teammates at the time when I first started were like, whoa, what's this? What are you doing? Why are you speaking to people you don't know? All sceptical and a bit apprehensive about it, but now it's caught on, everyone's into it, and I think it's something that's so powerful now that, as I said, speaking to my kids even just before we come here over the last couple of days, is they don't watch linear TV. They don't. They watch everything and find out all the information they need through social media and YouTube. And I think that's just the way things are going. I think when you look at the VTs that were just on, I think that's a perfect example of they're just different. I think BT and Wimbledon, both great in what you saw there, and it showcased them beautifully together there. But then you had Copper 90, which is more social media, which is more online driven, raw, a bit more raw, a bit more rock and roll. But I think married together is the perfect situation, perfect scenario.
So it gave you a sense of control in the initial stages, social media, but actually, as you say, it becomes part of brand Rio and who you are, because you can then take that to broadcasters, and that's part of who you are. I mean, because viewing the way people view things, it's changing.
Also, when I knew I would be coming to retirement, and I had an idea, I wanted to be doing punditry at some point. I knew that if I was going to be going for that particular job, that company, the employer, will be going to, right, so how many social media followers does he have? They're both great players. I was a great player. But how many social media followers that great player got compared to that great player? And the one with the more followers invariably would get that opportunity. And I think, as I said, the quicker people grasp that, the better for them.
You were savvy from an early point. The figures certainly indicate how people are consuming sport, how that's changing. If you look at during the last Premier League season, the average viewing figures for Sky's live channels fell 14%. That's a 7-year low. I know BT Sports coverage was a modest fall at 2%. Various reasons have been given for that. One of them was that the fan base of the teams that were coming into the top flight, there was a lower figure for that. But if you look at the viewing for Sky streaming services, Sky Go or Now TV, they went up by 31%. So I don't think any of that is a coincidence. Mike, talk us through BT Sports strategy. I know you've been working hard to improve that experience for your audience and basically offer people more choice.
That's right. I mean, we're all busier year after year, and we all have in our hands, on our tables in front of us, the ability to consume video and consume media wherever we are and whenever we want to. So the idea of TV being the primary platform has obviously changed, and we all know that instinctively because that's how we use the media. So for us as a live TV, a live sports channel, yes, we will still have those big moments, 7:45 kickoffs, 3 p.m. You know, they will always be the sort of big appointment to view moments. But outside of that is when you need to reach people in the same way. And so social can be 24/7, and you can build your brand, you can drive appointment to view, you can build personalities, you can speak to people in a relevant way all the time now, and you know, we're all consuming video all of the time. So if you're not doing that, if you're just relying on your appointment to view 3 p.m, you're missing out, and that's not when the conversation is happening. Conversation is happening right now, so you need to be part of that.
And I'm sure it didn't surprise you to hear that Rio's kids don't really watch live TV. I'm 37, I don't,
They
apart
watch
from
live
live sport. Yeah, live sport is the only thing, but everything else, you can make your own channel. And if I'm doing that approaching 40, you know, if you're in your 20s or teenagers, it's absolutely no surprise. Alex, at the BT Sport Awards, you took 2 of the main awards, some stiff competition. So the awards were Best Digital Platform and Best Use of Social Media. You were up against the likes of Adidas and Samsung, so congratulations. Were people surprised with, you know, Wimbledon is, we think about tradition, British tradition, but actually you're really changing things in the digital marketplace. What's Wimbledon's main motivation for that? Is it making sure that you're attracting the next generation of Wimbledon addicts?
Well, I think what we've tried to do over the last few years is recognise, Rio talked about knowing who you are and almost taking control of your own destiny. And I think in today's world, there is nothing more powerful than knowing who you are and what you stand for and being able to articulate that really clearly. And we felt that the linear view of Wimbledon wasn't necessarily representative of everything that Wimbledon has to offer. So our broadcast partners do a fantastic job of showing the action, and they show centre court, and they show the Royal Box, and they show everything that goes into the tournament, much like that VT. But what they weren't showing was the hill, where all of these people queue overnight and come in. They weren't necessarily showing off all the players and the routines that they go through. They weren't necessarily showing off all the other characters who work for Wimbledon, whether they're picking strawberries or being ball boys and girls, the people who travel from, I think there was a woman who got on a flight just to travel overnight to see Serena Williams, got on a plane and went back again. So that's what digital media and social media has allowed us to do, is stretch the boundaries of what Wimbledon is and what people think it is, but still stick to the core of what it is, not go too schizophrenic almost with it. So it's been quite a ride.
Vuj, who by the way, I had the pleasure of meeting you when he was taking on Katie Hopkins. I was hosting a debate on the EU referendum, and he was taking on Katie Hopkins, who was who was commenting on you being called Vuj. She didn't seem to get why you would have a nickname that relates to your surname, but anyway.
Probably because I'm ethnically different to her.
Oh, pre-EU referendum, that was a simpler time,
that's okay.
wasn't it? Now, Vuj, you've come into this industry flipping things on your head, haven't you?
Yeah.
You started out on YouTube with no rights 5 years ago, and 80 million views a month you've reached?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's Copper 90 in general.
Yes.
And what it does, yeah, it's an amazing platform. I've been doing a few shows there, and the one that's been kind of hitting home the most is FIFA and Chill.
Yeah.
Where I kind of played on the whole Netflix and Chill viral element, which I don't know if you know what Netflix and Chill stands for.
I hope people know. Although I've heard dads say it to their kids, and that's really awful.
No, you can't be doing that.
They say, hey, let's Netflix
That's illegal.
and Chill. I'm like, that's not allowed in this.
That's illegal, you can't do that. But
people
in terms of partners, maybe Netflixing and chilling, and chilling obviously stands for something else. But with FIFA and Chill, it was, yeah, we play football, kind of, you know, use Twitter by getting people, the audience to send in their questions. So we integrated the audience, and then, you know, you combine it with guests. And for me personally, me and my co-host Poet, we love getting guests from all walks of life, because I feel like football connects everyone. And the person doesn't even have to like football or know football, but because we've got the football game, the FIFA, playing it, it connects it. So that's the beauty of the internet, is you can really create concepts that transcend everything. I
feel like you might have been watching us on Newsround doing this kind of thing. We were at Wimbledon once interviewing Andy Murray, playing tennis, and people were like, oh wow, you know, years and years ago. And actually, sometimes you just need a different way to talk to people, don't you?
Can we do that, Andy Murray? Yeah, cool.
I'll take 15% for that, hope. But what goes through your head when you see broadcasters trying to embrace the digital world alongside the regular old world of live television?
I think it's great. A lot of the time I'm critiquing it.
Why?
I'm a bit like, because I think I could do it better sometimes, or like that other people that are in the internet world could come in and help. I feel like maybe that's the kind of next step, is influencers and people that are working online, and football channels. There's many people doing great things for example, myself and Rio are playing in a game at Wembley, which is YouTubers, literally just YouTubers and a few footballers, and it's already sold 18,000 tickets, potentially looking at 50,000. So I think it's now time for TV and the internet to really combine, and I think it's great to see how BT are integrating. You know, we've worked with them a few times. I did a FIFA and Chill with Rio personally, and now I got him on the WhatsApp. You know what I mean? That's sometimes I message him. He reads me on the blue ticks, but it's okay.
How does it work with name dropping when the person's in the room?
No, but you know, it's a guy I used to watch, and I support Liverpool, so that 90th minute header.
That's why I don't
when he
reply.
scored.
That's why he doesn't reply.
But yeah, he doesn't reply to me, but it's cool. I'm over it. But you know, it's like it's so good that those worlds are colliding and coming to a place of where maybe in the future you'd see more internet faces on TV and vice versa. And I think it is the future, as Rio said. You know, I personally don't watch TV, and even the games I watch, I stream online via sites that might not be legit. I'm just being honest. You know, that's just.
And that's what today's all about.
You know,
I think that sorry, the power of it. When I saw it, not first, but when it really hit home, BT allowed me to bring my 2 boys to the Champions League final. They're going to watch like Cristiano Ronaldo and like the top players, potentially going to meet them. And when we got to the airport, Poet and Vooge walked into the airport, and KSI. If you don't know KSI, he's like one of the biggest YouTube boys. And they flipped out. They was going crazy, like, oh, Dad, you must be able to sort me to sit next to one of them or sit behind him so I can just tap him on the shoulder. And they don't go back. When I saw them with footballers, the contrast was unbelievable. So I automatically thought, wow, it's changed. These are the rock stars, these young guys now who are doing it and who are really kind of just, they've changed the way that the young kids consume any type of content. And they're speaking their language, and I think that's the big challenge for the linear TV channels is to actually speak the language of the next generation, and these guys do it better than anyone.
And link up with the influencers. Great job with Jeremy Corbyn, by the way. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch Vooge's interview with Jeremy Corbyn. You didn't quite get him to play FIFA, did you? But
nah, but that was fine.
And you could tell you're a massive fan of his. I think
love
the
him.
bigger test for you, though,
you can see by the way I dress and act, probably. I'm more left-leaning.
No.
I'm on the left, actually, here. So yeah.
I don't judge a book by its cover. But I think the bigger test for you would be Theresa May. I'd like to see a FIFA
I would love
and chill.
to talk to Theresa May.
FIFA and chill with Theresa May.
You know what? Then we can go for a run through some wheat fields afterwards.
Yes, exactly. She goes crazy like that sometimes.
I love that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be great.
How do you think you are viewed by traditional broadcasters? You look at them sometimes critiquing. How do you think
they think I'm weird?
Yeah.
Probably. And they go, what the hell is this? Which I understand. I mean, I don't blame them. I look at myself in the mirror and think that sometimes. But I think it's about perspective and understanding, really, and trying to venture into those worlds and understand it and embrace it. Because I think, you know, if the world is changing and the way it is changing, we should embrace the changes that are happening. And Copper 90 does, you know, apart from the FIFA and chill that I do with my friend, Poet, he's my best friend, basically, and I'm his godfather. But we do like Comments Below, which is a weekly kind of show that we do every week. And they do like, you know, ultras. We've gone around the world and interviewed like ultras from Turkey and Serbia and other places. So the beauty of the internet is that you can really pick up a camera and create a narrative and a story and go. Which I feel that's the problem with linear TV sometimes, is there's a lot of processes and there's a lot of middlemen. And a lot of us, the new generation, where we get too frustrated if there's too much time happening for the creativity to get executed.
You lose the flow, don't you?
You lose the flow,
you want to remain relevant and
yeah.
do that story right now because it's happening now, as opposed to going through layers of commissioners.
But I think, you know, if we kind of meet in the middle, we make it work, there's some great TV to be coming and online content as well.
And did you say that you're working with BT Sport?
Yeah, we've done
together.
Rio's been on FIFA and chill with these guys, and I think you've come to the last 2 Champions League finals, and there's been so I think one of the advantages and one of the things that Copper 90 do really well is, as been mentioned, authenticity and the way that they speak to. And for us as BT Sport, as you know, the sort of at BT Sport, our kind of corporate brand, we don't have that license to speak in that way. We don't have that kind of cool switch that we can just turn on and off. So that's why the work that we do there, and also the work that we do with our talent, is really important, because Rio, as an ambassador for BT Sport, as someone who not only is a great player but has great opinions on the game, we want to put him forward as a, you know, as the voice of is our opinion on football. You know, we don't have this kind of ambition for our own accounts to be front and centre all the time. So if Rio's sharing BT Sport content or is saying, you know, here I am, I'm going to be on the game tonight, he does a Facebook Live or Instagram Live from the ground before when he's got there, and he's very, very busy on his own social accounts, speaking to his own followers about what he's going to be doing on BT Sport. So for us, that's incredibly valuable, because sort of people follow people on social. They don't necessarily follow corporate accounts. You know, we have content which is really shareable, so goals, knockouts, tries that we sort of post in real time. But a lot of the personality and the fun that we are able to kind of create is through people like Rio and Steven Gerrard and all the rest of the kind of top name pundits that we have. So yeah, people follow people. So the way that we work with talent and the way that we work with, we're not rivals. You know, there's kind of there's a way that we can work together which helps us reach audiences which we otherwise struggle to do.
And the way that things are conducted now, Rio, this fan-first approach means you're closer to the fans than ever before, really. How much, therefore, do you listen? And they're, I mean, especially football fans, they're as passionate as fans get, really. How much do you listen to their feedback, which they're inevitably giving you? They have an opinion on everything you're doing, surely.
Yeah, you look at it, what I do, but I think you have to have thick skin. Whenever a sportsman or woman or whoever or a pundit says, "Oh, I'm thinking about social media," if they're not on it, and it's what do you think? It's like, well, have you got thick skin? Can you take criticism? Because a big majority, but most of your comments will be negative. Mostly young kids trying to get a rise out of you, and so I do look on just to see what the trend is after a game. Maybe what's the comments? Did they pick up on a certain point I was trying to get across in at half time or full time? And you get a decent gauge as to where you are with that. Because you can normally go through it and see the ones that are just trying to get a comment back from you. And I've learnt after a few fines when I was playing not to comment and not to retaliate. But it is. I think it's for news and for getting a bearing on how you're doing with what you've done. It is a great place, a great source of information.
We've had a question in. Please put your name. It's sort of a bit nicer if you put a name, but it's anonymous. How do we make broadcast bigger? How do you think, Alex?
How do we make broadcast?
Yeah.
bigger?
How does digital? Does digital make?
I think
traditional television bigger, or at least events bigger?
I think a lot of what we've talked about is people's time, and the thing that digital and social media offers is additional windows into people's time. That, as Mike said, everyone is busy and everyone has a lot of things to do. And that's also a self-perpetuating thing. We make ourselves busier by our habits and by things that we decide to watch. And I think the key and the ability that we all have is to offer up choice. And so if someone has the time, then they can sit and watch a long-form 50-minute. There's a reason why these shows and why Netflix is what it is, because it can offer long-form programming. But then you are also able to dip into someone when they think, oh, I'm waiting in line to get a coffee, I'm just going to check my phone and, oh, there's a piece of content. And I think the secondary part of that choice is not just occupying the time, but also, with all due respect to Vuj, we wouldn't want every single piece of content that is out there and available to us to all be the same. So we've got the ability to have a spectrum of things that we offer up to people. And I think that's where the future of content, because at some point it's not going to be digital and social and broadcast, it's just going to be content. It's going to be about time and it's going to be about variety, in my view.
How does your digital offering enhance the traditional offering? Does it enhance it? And at what point, as you say, do you think it will be that it's all one offering?
I think it's completely complementary, yeah. We talked about where you are and when you want to watch. I guess that's the first purpose of digital, was to give you an opportunity to watch live sport when you're not in front of a TV, but it's so much more than that now. If you think about what we did for the Champions League final in Cardiff, I think we've got a VT we can show in a second, but we made that available free on YouTube, so anyone could watch it. The aim was to create a national sporting moment, a huge event, and streaming that onto YouTube for everyone was the perfect way to do that. We also did some really cool stuff with 360 virtual reality, which again was on YouTube. So that was giving it another completely different, completely new experience. The BT Sport app, which has multi-camera angles, there's a ton of fun stuff in there, which really kind of gives people a different way to experience football. So the digital technology side of things is going forward incredibly quickly. So maybe we can play the VT and have a look at some of that.
Yeah. BT Sport changed the game this year, making the Champions League final more accessible and interactive than ever before. Broadcasting for the first time in virtual reality.
That is so special!
With the biggest ever VR stream.
Yeah, super. You're like in the game. The superb piece of kit. What an experience.
And free on YouTube in stunning 4K.
Cristiano Ronaldo! Who else on a big night?
Fan engagement was at the heart of our social media coverage, through our accounts and our football experts. Our videos trended on social with our innovative campaigns like Goals Recreated and Champions Draw. Our team sheet even included a 200-foot Gareth Bale, whose dynamic image welcomed fans to Cardiff and displayed their tweets as they left the stadium. With 20 million video views across our social channels, BT Sport broke records for its digital coverage of the Champions League final and put the fans at the heart of the biggest game in football.
Coming in and he's got there again!
It's Real Madrid for the 12th time. The duodecima is complete for the Spanish champions.
Is the key to all of this data? Measuring it, analysing it, learning from it?
I think data is really important, yeah, but I don't think it's the be-all and end-all. I think you have to, if you want to just have big accounts and have 10 million, 20 million, 30 million views, then there's ways that you can use data to do that. But I think it's about, as Alex said, it's about knowing who you are and the story that you want to tell. So if you are creating content which is painting yourself in a positive light, is showing off the best of BT Sport in our world, then that is more important than just using data to completely cheat in a way or to get to the top of the Facebook algorithm. So it's more important to create content which you know is authentic and relevant to your audience rather than using data, I think, to kind of, as I said, just to get to #1 on the Google news list.
How do you measure success then, Alex?
It's very challenging. I think one of the biggest challenges of this whole space, and this applies to TV as well, is that there are very different ways of measuring success. You talk about video views. So during the Wimbledon fortnight this year, we generated 220 million video views across Wimbledon's platforms, which is an increase of 100 million on last year. And then you have an audience figure metric of TV, which is around, I think there was a peak of 7 million on the BBC for one match. But those are not like-for-like comparisons. You can't look at them in the same way, just as you arguably can't look at Facebook view in the same way as you can a YouTube view or a view on your own website. So it is really difficult, and I think we actually look, going back to what Rio was saying about looking at the reaction, we do look at the feedback we get from the audience because, as Mike said, authenticity is really important to us. And if someone was to watch a piece of content and be like, "Oh, Wimbledon, you're just trying too hard, just stop trying so hard," then we would say, "Well, we went too far." So it's a combination. I'm fudging, but it's a combination of the anecdotal feedback, what does perform well, and then what you know in your sort of gut has actually worked and is right for you.
This is like dating. You don't want to appear too desperate.
But I think also it's about having the ability to evolve and to understand what is coming and really put your arm out there and say, you know, we're going to go out there and we're going to embrace what's coming and what we see in the future, which is the digital space. And I think if I look back to when I was playing with Sir Alex Ferguson, that's why he was so great. When I look, and in the time you're in the bubble, you don't see it, but since he's left and I've come out of the game and you look at him and you think he managed to build 3 or 4 great teams, and in all them times he had to treat each team and individuals differently all the time. And I think it's the same with the linear TV. I think the great thing what BT are doing now is that they've embraced the digital space, but they're bringing it together with what they know and being true to themselves. Live sport is great, and which is the next generation still watch a lot of live sport. My kids watch a lot of live sport and their friends, but with the second screen, they want short and sharp. They're very, very intent on getting quick content they can just have a look at and throw away. And that's the goals things that the Champions League will be exclusive from next year, won't it? And I think that's a great place really to get that next generation of kids who are going to want to get that snackable content, get it quick, throw it away, I got it first here, but also go back and watch the live games all the time. And I think it's marrying them two together which is the hardest part.
We often hear about second screen, and we've been hearing it for years, but for some people, surely that's the only screen. Are there some people out there, I remember someone mentioned this with F1 years ago, they used to only watch a little bit of the build-up, never the actual race. Is that the key? When you speak to people and fans of what you do, is the second screen their only screen and they're not really...
I mean, from my bubble, because I think we're all in our bubbles, and it's sometimes hard to go out, but I don't have a TV at the moment. It's in a storage, overpaid yellow box storage. They're really expensive, but for me, my phone is where I'm at all the time, and my laptop, and that's where I'm streaming, and that's where I'm kind of Twitter, Instagram, you're so wrapped in the now, what's happening now? You really want to find everything first. Zlatan's moved to United, let's get on there. You want to make a tweet, you want to say something, and it's about being reactive.
Apparently Sky pulled out of an England press conference to give that news.
That's crazy. So that's what I'm saying is the internet, and I mean, even an interesting fact actually, the first Wembley Cup that hashtag United, so Spencer Owen, you actually saw they worked with BT this year, it had more views than the Champions League final. And that's YouTubers playing at Wembley, and this is the Champions League final, and if you compare the views, so it kind of shows you how everything is just definitely changing. But yeah, for some, that is the only screen.
When Alex was talking about comparing views and Facebook versus YouTube, you were scoffing a little bit.
No, I agree.
How do you, but in the sense that you can't compare, and so how do you analyse success, or how do you compare, therefore? I
mean, once again, success it's really relative to the situation, and a Facebook view is you just scroll past it and it's a view. That's why every video there has 20 million views. But for me,
so do you think people overestimate the value of a Facebook?
I think a little bit, but I also think what she was saying about authenticity is very true, in terms of being authentic and delivering your message to the audience. And sometimes you just feel it's right. So for me, interviewing Jeremy Corbyn on the channel was a milestone that we managed to get, potentially, probably will be the next Prime Minister on our channel. Whereas, that wouldn't be comprehended years ago, that two boys from London would interview a potential Prime Minister on a field in Hackney for the electoral campaign. So for me, and it didn't get crazy views, it got 300,000 views, whereas we interviewed Stormzy and they got 500,000. So for me, that is more successful because I'm viewing it by the impact and kind of what it means to me. So I think the authenticity is very, very important across the board.
But actually, I mean, if we touch on what Jon Snow was talking about last night in the McTaggart lecture, having someone like you interview Jeremy Corbyn, that serves a part of an audience that no one else perhaps is serving. Is that what you feel? That's why that to you is just as successful as something that's... It
touches me on an emotional level and a mental and a kind of, for me, on a personal basis. I also feel like a lot of underprivileged kids, because I've grown up in inner London, I was a refugee when I came to this country. For me to do that, I almost feel like I'm showing the younger kids that may be watching online, they go, this is possible, I can do this, I can create, it kind of breaks those boundaries that maybe before you see a TV screen, you go, I can never be that. That's so far away. For me, Rio was so far away 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I was like, bloody, you just scored a header against Liverpool. And now we're here kind of talking about TV and the digital age. So that's the beauty of what's happening, and the authenticity level of online, and what we can break down all those barriers, and kind of, as you said, it's all going to be just content at the end of the day. So that's a great point.
People have been trying to do that for a long time. Even Obama, when Obama was coming into office, Jay-Z was there, Beyonce, etc. Then you're speaking to the black community. That's the same now. The young kids aren't watching ITN News. They're not watching the news at 10. They're watching
we don't
these
believe
guys.
them either, which is good.
Exactly. So the young kids are going to see these guys who they look up to and they want to be like, So if they're speaking to the people who are going to be making decisions on their behalf in the political world, they want to get it from these guys because they believe that these guys are the truth, because they're one of them. And I think that in linear TV it's difficult to get that at the moment, or from years gone by, because people have become a bit mistrusting of that space and that TV. And these guys, as I said, the new rock stars who my kids just believe in.
I live in Tottenham, my mum.
You've got to start behaving better, because
I think
If you are a rock... Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to make the point about how broadcasters are trying to tap into that social conversation, to the point that kind of Jon Snow made yesterday about the disconnection, which is really real, and from conversations which are either happening in person or in much bigger numbers online. If you don't tap into that as a broadcaster, then you become irrelevant very, very quickly. So at BT Sport we do a show called Premier League Tonight, which is a very traditional TV show. It's kind of Rio and Poditz in a studio, but we really try to hand that running order and the schedule over to the fans. So we'll be tapping into social media, looking at what the really big talking points of the day are, and it's not traditionally or hasn't been over the last year what you might think it was. If you're just producers and talent sitting around in what are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about bang, bang, bang. Actually, if you look at what the trending topics are, what the fans are really talking about, you will get a different agenda. And that has made Premier League Tonight a really successful show. So fans will come on, they'll send an iPhone video and ask Rio a question directly, which is not the question which Jake Humphrey, the host, would have asked him. It's much... It
enables you to be more current, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you can react to situations immediately and get some feedback from it. And that show, for instance, and I think when you look to America, they've been doing that for a good couple more years.
Yeah, that's maybe the only space they're progressive in, is TV.
It's true, their shows are entwined. Their normal shows are entwined with social media.
Yeah.
So you're getting straight from the horse's mouth. They're asking questions real time, and you're getting to answer in real time, which is cool.
And it's different. It is a bit. You said the comments that you get on your Twitter account or your Instagram. A lot of them are more negative, but some of them will just be, will be a completely left field thing that your traditional presenter wouldn't ask you, because football can become a bit routine. Yeah,
tribal. It's normally a Liverpool fan or a Man City fan or someone like that. The negative comments, and you just brush them away.
They don't care.
You're head of digital. That's your job. That it's obviously in you. You recognise what you might need to do, at least who to contact to remain relevant as a channel or as a brand. But there will be broadcast, and you will have met some of them. There will be broadcasters or people in charge at broadcasters who don't get it.
Yeah.
They just don't get it. But maybe because of their age, they don't want to get it. They don't want to leave it. Isn't there a risk? I mean, I've met people people just don't get it, and they talk about diversity and engaging with younger audiences and all. But they talk about it.
Well, they do talk about it.
But I think.
But what do they do? Do you find that enough people are actually doing something about it?
I think as people in general, though, we like to waffle and not act. Because it's hard to break boundaries and habits, and if you've been doing something for 20 years. You're not going to now go risk it and go, here you go, here's a show, do whatever.
There's a whole kind of very full graveyard of businesses who haven't listened to that and haven't moved with digital, from whoever to Blockbuster to WH Smith, all kinds of London taxi drivers. Now it's the same thing. If you don't listen to where people are going and you don't move with the way technology is shaping, then you get left behind very, very quickly. The example of in the sport world, the Sun put up a very high paywall for its content a few years ago, and then people and their natural territory was all about football, fun, jokes, women, and people like Lad Bible and Joe and Corbyn, they came in and just ate their lunch because they said, well, we don't know how we're going to make any money out of this, so we'll put up a very high paywall. Was the Murdoch idea. And it proved to be a disaster. And 3 years later, they had to tear it down again. So if you don't react, if you're not really, really aware of the disruptive power of technology and digital, then there's a big graveyard full of those people. So it's happening all the time.
And Alex and her team have proved actually something very traditional has been able to be progressive as well, but retain the sort of, as you say, the authenticity of what Wimbledon is and the traditions of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge for those more hardened TV executives, I guess, to diplomatically refer to them, is about the monetisation. And I think the shift that is now happening, people have been talking about this for a long time. We were talking earlier about how Armageddon has been coming. And actually what's happened, particularly in the last year, is where brands are investing their money. And brands are investing their money in Facebook, as much as we may hate it. That's where they're spending all of their money. And until people realise that their very high-spec programme has got no viewers and therefore they have no audience to sell their advertising against, they won't really get it, I think, because it's going to take us as stark a reality as that. And I think for us in the digital world, we can make some money, but it is, at the moment, it's a little bit like, oh, well done, you made a little bit of money. It's not the huge rights fee scenario that linear TV is still commanding, but that is going to change. And I think we're getting slow Armageddon.
Esme sent in a question which I think is really relevant to when we're talking about attracting the next generation. It's so youth-focused, the digital world, but through the content that you put out on your social media channels, the question from Esme is, how are you making sure you get a balance of women's sports and men's sport coverage? My additional question about that would be, how much is gender balance in the consciousness? I know that you had your first FIFA and Chill with a woman not long ago, right?
Yeah, maybe this year.
Yeah, this year. And
so, yeah.
In many ways, is because people are focusing so much on digital and trying to attract youth, is the gender balance going slightly the other way?
In terms of more towards men again?
Yeah, again, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's
the
widest question for society. We need to question the patriarchy and the misogynistic views of our society in general, and then that will trickle down into sport. But that needs to be addressed, and women's sports, and it should be on TV more.
There is a fact that I think this is a fact that there are more men who actively use social media than there are women. Maybe they have more time. I don't know. And so, sorry.
Don't be sorry, it's true.
A little insight into Alex's life.
So if you're trying to reach people and actively go after an audience, one of the things that social and digital media offers you up is the ability to specifically target. One of the reasons people like Wimbledon as an event is because it actually skews female. Women like to come and watch tennis, and they love to have a great day out and have a picnic. That's a terrible stereotype. I didn't say that. But do you see where I'm going?
Yes.
It's
that's one. It's one of the reasons why Wimbledon.
It's one of the reasons why Wimbledon transcends the sport that it is because it's also an event. And I guess what social has brought into trying to address the gender balance is the ability to say, I have this amazing sport, it's women's football, and I'm going to go and show other women out there why women's football is so brilliant. But I'm also going to show some men why women's football is so brilliant. And then you can measure it and understand and react accordingly. And I'll stop.
I think one of the women's sport. One of the really cool things that we found at BT is that if you have a moment which works as a social clip, it doesn't matter if it's in a women's match or the Champions League final or non-league football. So one of the best performing clips that we've ever had was a free kick by Notts County ladies, a player called Laura Bassett. And it was a fake free kick. Some people have seen it. So the women's team had worked out this kind of acting, basically, where they pretend that they'd cocked up their free kick routine. The defence would go to sleep, and then they knocked it to the side. It was brilliant, and it executed perfectly. And because, it was about novelty, you've never seen that before, that's what made the clip work. It wasn't people going, well, I'm not interested in women's football. It was like, this is brilliant, I've never seen this before, and sharing that. So, from a digital kind of newsfeed, kind of, if you're thinking about content that does well, it's not about, okay, let's have some women's content here and let's have some men's content here. It's just looking for good content, which is going to be shareable and going to find an audience, I think.
When it comes to women's football, other broadcasters, yourselves, but BBC have been sort of plugging away and showing women's football. And then this year it's on Channel 4, 3.3 million for the England semi-final of the Euros. How do you explain? That's a traditional terrestrial broadcaster, and we're here talking about digital. How do you have you analysed that in the office? How do you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, Channel 4 did a very good job. I kind of think this is a bit unscientific, but if it was on the BBC, it would have done the same. I think it's just an evolution of women's football, personally.
And success.
Because that, you know, no one else has had those ratings before, so you think it was the right time?
I think so. I mean, there's other like tactical things. You know, it's a very quiet summer, for example. There was no Olympics or Euros. You know, as Rio said, success. The team have really been building over a number of years. Third at the World Cup, started really with the Olympics, but year after year that's grown, and those players have become more popular. So, and that will now continue, I think, as well. But I don't think necessarily that Channel 4 have achieved a number which the BBC wouldn't have done, personally.
Yeah, I mean, the peak viewing audience for Wimbledon in the UK was not Roger Federer winning Wimbledon, even though it was his 8th title. It was very historic, and Federer is arguably the most popular tennis player there is. It was Jo Konta winning her quarterfinal against Simona Halep, and that was the UK coming behind. I think that's the other aspect of what drives interest is national interest. Certainly at Wimbledon we see when every other year we go up against a major football event, and you do lose the casual English fan because they are cheering on the England team rather than necessarily interested in Wimbledon. But I think it's good. It is good.
Vuj, how do you ever worry about authenticity? So you've started off a certain way, you know, online.
I worry about everything.
Love life aside, as you start.
That ended yesterday. Oh, I'm joking. I'm not joking. That's serious. Is this live? Shit.
If anyone would like to go on a date with Vuj, just go through the
I'm
app
done with that.
and just start your message with the word Vuj. As you start to show live games on Copper 90, and I'm acting like you're the whole of Copper 90, and you are working with big football clubs. I think you've been working with Manchester City. Yeah. Is there a risk of harming your reputation as disruptors and risking your own authenticity?
No, I don't think
I don't want to say becoming too mainstream, but you don't want to lose the edge, do you?
I feel like the good thing about football is, and this is why I love working in football, is that it is like a religion. You're going to follow it. You know, it's regardless of, you know, if I had a TV, I probably would have BT. Well, I don't know, maybe. But what I'm saying is, like, he's
going for the free subscription.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the free subscription. Sort me out after, but, you know.
Help a brother out. He has no TV at the moment.
Come on, man, struggling out here. Come on. But what I'm saying is that it's football. So at the end of the day, if you're showing live football and if you manage to show it on your channel, that wouldn't harm you. You can only grow the audience because you want to watch live football. So it's just, I don't think there would be any disruption there.
Do you think, like yourself, poet, other YouTubers, would you actually leave the digital space to go to linear TV for a show?
It would depend on what the linear offer was. You know, if the linear is in a similar, offering similar things, you'd be interested, you know. But if they're offering you, hey, I'm David and welcome to 7, you'd be like, well, that's not really me.
We've just had a question in saying, would you accept a TV show?
I would, I mean, personally, you know.
Here you go, Rio.
I mean, personally, as just in my career, I would like to venture into TV maybe and just test all the waters, but it would depend on, you know, you don't want to lose your authenticity. I can't start talking like someone else or being something else. So it really does depend on what it was, and you would kind of want it on your own terms, because that's what you do in the digital space, is you do it on your own terms. It'd have to be somewhere in the middle. If it was kind of just, here's this role, you'd question it.
You don't want to feel like you have to suppress yourself either.
No, exactly. But if it was something amazing and great, like, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, yeah.
Another question is Vuj for Love Island.
Oh, no, hell no. Hell no.
Could be
I don't watch that. That scares me.
I think one of the big advantages that you have as a presenter, getting back on the topic, is how you're able to speak to footballers who are the same age as you, 25, who, you know, have grown up in that kind of digital world, in a very, very natural way. And if a broadcaster speaks to a footballer, or, you know, the BBC speak to Roger Federer, there's often quite a lot of tension there, and you probably felt this way.
It doesn't often make for that interesting an interview.
I think that's what's great for the digital, I think, because you get a different personality from a digital interview to a linear interview, and I think that's the one thing that I think the football clubs needs to allow the players to be able to do, and that's to breathe easy and to be able to be themselves, because coming into football as a kid, and that was probably a bit of the club's fault, but also the media at the time, because the media were very kind of cutthroat. And my first ever interview as a kid coming into football with one of the national newspapers, the person who interviewed me just changed the whole interview and made me look terrible, changed all my answers, etc. And it made me, my guard was straight up. And I think that's the same for most football sports people. Your guard goes straight up. So every interview you see, I've seen myself, I look back on interviews or players that I know are really funny.
Yeah.
For instance, Michael Owen is one of the funniest guys, really funny guy, great personality.
For real?
You would not know that.
No, are you
People say that about Andy Murray.
But if you base that
People say that about Andy Murray, and actually he's one of the funniest guys I've ever interviewed.
If you base that on his actual interviews, that
you see his top 5 movies. It was like Rambo.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's based on actually being scared. You're scared to open up, and you don't want to, and you're not spoken to.
That's true.
In the language that you're used to.
We find that struggle as well. Like on set, sometimes you have like 10 PR people behind the camera, and they're all like, what are you gonna say? And it's like, come on, man, like we're just gonna talk. And if it's something that you don't want, we'll just cut it out. At the end of the day, it's not a big problem, but it's just about humanizing people. Like as much as you're Rio Ferdinand, a human being, not just the amazing star footballer. It's about just talking, I think, to everybody in the same manner and tone and respect. And
but once that trust is there,
the trust, exactly.
I think you guys bring that trust element to the players. Yeah. We're not going to mess you up. We want to be in this game.
Yeah, we want to be with you, exactly.
And we're not a big corporate company who our ideals are to go out there and get a story.
Yeah, but
get the right story.
It's about changing those norms, the norms and narratives, and allowing people to just to relax. Thus, the name FIFA and chill is, you're meant to be relaxed.
I think it's about. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say that. For the broadcasters, not a significant danger, but something they should be aware of is a slight entitlement in terms of access to athletes, and feeling like you are always going to get time with them and they are always going to put their best face on. And as you say, not be creative enough to make it really worth their while. And something that we as a rights holder, we have no right to time with anybody, but we've actually tried to really think, well, what would Andy Murray enjoy doing that he doesn't get to do with a broadcaster? And to be fair to a lot of broadcasters, they are starting to think in this way, because as Mike said, people do follow people, and the athletes are going to move the needle in terms of keeping sport relevant to the future generations.
Well, I think it's also up to the players. The players have to show some form of character and personality to say to the people that look after them, especially the agents, no, I can do this, I will do this, and I'm intelligent enough to do the right thing when asked a prickly question. And I think that's a big problem. You get into a room, like you're saying, I've been on the other side now, so I'm someone who's interviewing people, and I can see an agent in the corner, and I want to get up and say, get out of the room. you're ruining it, you're making him stiff.
The atmosphere, right?
And it's just, they kill it.
But
and
there's people surrounding.
So I think it's the players need to be strong enough to say, listen, I'm cool, I can do this.
Yeah, 100%.
It's been quite a 5 years. You've had, so traditional broadcasters have done their thing, and then suddenly these digital providers like Copa 90, you've got Dugout, you've got Goal.com, they've emerged, and then so TV is then hooking up with all these Silicon Valley platforms like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Snapchat to enhance their offering. And now, in the past few months, you've had like Amazon Prime challenging for sports rights. You think of the ATP and NFL. In many ways, for a lot of people, it's hard to keep up with what's going on and where things are going. Where do you think things are? I'm going to ask you the inevitable question. For people, there are a lot of people, and we've had questions in. What advice do you have for young people wanting to get into the digital market? And through that, where do you think the market is going over the next 12 months, 2 years? Armageddon hasn't happened. TV isn't dead. Digital hasn't taken over, but maybe it's not TV versus digital.
I don't think TV's going to die. I think TV companies, as BT Sport are proving, will evolve within themselves to make sure that they are reaching different audiences. And going back to what we were saying earlier about being able to offer a choice, being able to reach people at all times of the day on whatever platform they might want. And I think something that we as Wimbledon, as a global event, think about is also in whatever country they might be in. Someone in India using their phone doesn't necessarily have the same bandwidth as somebody sitting in the UK on their high-density Wi-Fi. So, and the root of their success will be making sure that they're creating the right content to fill all of those gaps.
Where do you think things are going? Any advice for people who might want a job with
Yeah, I mean, in terms of advice, I mean, Vuj would probably speak better than I would, but I would say that be an all-rounder.
Well, but Vuj isn't hiring, and your company might be. You know,
I think I think sort of be an all-rounder. Learn how to do things like shoot, edit. You can watch a YouTube video. Don't wait for someone to come and give you a training course. You can do amazing things with your phone. And I wouldn't look at a CV with any great appetite if people had just said, right, here's all my educational qualifications. Here I am. You know, I would expect people coming into the industry now to have their own YouTube channel, their own Snapchat stories that I could look at to see what their take on sport or media is. So you have to be very, very busy, and you have to be, you know, an autodidact. You have to teach yourself stuff.
It sounds like you're in demand, Vuj, now.
I don't know, maybe.
And come to Wimbledon next.
Where do you?
Yeah, I would, please. I'm a Djokovic fan, though. I heard he's retiring and stuff. He's not really on it.
No.
Had a kid and it's like this new guru
He went
guy.
gluten-free, and then things.
Well, we'll reinvigorate him by getting you
I love Djokovic.
to sit down with.
He's my guy.
But where do you see things going in the next 12 months, 24 months? You know, sort of the immediate future.
Well,
I'm not going to ask you for a 10-year plan.
The World Cup's in Russia, so that'll be fun. Can't wait. Because I was in Marseille. Well, anyway, that's another story. But yeah, I think it's just, you kind of can't predict it anymore. I do feel like everything is joining and mashing and mishing, and it's all kind of going to become one. But the content, just quality. For me, it's always been more quality than quantity. Keep on trying to change stuff, progress, move forward, put your best foot forward. Always, you know, go against the status quo, but not against it, but break through. You know, make those breakthroughs that people go, whoa, what's that? So like FIFA and Chill, maybe what's the next idea? So it's about creating those ideas that people can connect to on many bases, and, you know, hit different demographics. I think that's very important. You know, give a voice to the unheard as well. I think that's massively important in today's society.
You were quite savvy early on with knowing that you had to have something extra apart from being a great footballer. Is that what you would advise? Just, you know, just try and remain as relevant as possible, because actually you'll be lost.
Yeah, and I think BT are proving that, in that they're seeing what's going on in the digital space and trying to stay on that road and stay a part of it. And I think if you can stay a part of that conversation, then you're on the right track. And I think it's the what you said about the Sun putting up the paywall is a very good kind of thing to look at, to say, listen, if you don't look forward and see what's coming down the road, you can get left behind. And like the Daily Mail were nowhere near the Sun now. Most people's phones are Daily Mail's one of the first apps you open when you wake up in the morning. Well, it is mine.
No one should be near either of them.
It's the most popular.
It's the most popular
in the world.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's because they were ahead of the curve, and they were put their arm out and thought, you know what, well, this is the area we're going to go in. We're not going to put up a paywall, and it's not about the money at the front end. We're going to look in the long term, and I think they played their cards right. But I think BT are really, from speaking to the guys on a weekly basis, digital is one of the main words that comes up with every conversation we have.
Yeah, I think it's always about where's the technology going as well. So, for example, there's going to be, I think it's next year or 2 years, there's going to be 4G on the whole of the London Underground. So you'll never need to be offline. You can already get online on planes. So things like that, you know, the arrival of WhatsApp and Messenger and things like that, which is now a huge kind of market, which is very private communities. So those private communities will only grow as well, I think. So a bit of it's content, but I think a lot of it's always driven by technology and the sort of hardware, data connection and things like boring things like that actually do shape the way that content pieces will be going.
I'm afraid our time is up, I'm being told in my ear. Thank you so much to our panellists, Rio, Mike, Alex, Vuj. Thank you to all of you for coming.
Thank you.